whatever. We have to make sure that people who rely on public transport can get in and out. Even if a minibus goes up and down as a feeder bus and catches the bus where it comes back onto its route. Okay, we have to make sure that in future, before any roadworks take place, okay, as soon as we get notification, that we get our ward councillors and see the officers to let them know that they need to put in place a feeder bus, because it is absolutely horrendous that we live 7 miles from whatever, and lo and behold, it's difficult when there's no public transport. So we need to keep the public transport used, because once people go from public transport to cars, they tend to stay with their car and they don't use public transport.
Okay. You're in agreement with what we suggested to get somebody in to speak?
I'm definitely, yeah.
Okay. And the third speaker is Hugh Harper. Are you speaking here?
I just speak on behalf of the kitchen. I think it's unfair to have a go at the cleaner there and saying it's not kept clean. That lady has worked here since this place opened 44 years ago. This is the first time anybody's ever complained about her workmanship. And I think it's unfair to pick on him and saying that it needs cleaning, it's dirty and all that type of thing.
That's it,
Yeah, well the other thing was, which hasn't been mentioned, but there has been some disquiet, I understand, about the reading of the names of the War Memorial this year. The thing was with the War Memorial, where it was thought that we've always had the mayor reading the names, and it's been done since 1921, I understand, other than the mayor at that particular time. And then it was asked that Mr. Wang could read in this particular year, declined to say that it's always been read in the way it's not just for World War I, it's for all the wars and World War II as well. So I think that should be pointed out that the mayor is not to blame for the reading out the name. I take the blame for that if anybody wants to blame. Okay.
Okay, Councillor Rencontre, thank you for that, Mr. Harper.
I'm just a little bit confused. I wasn't aware that Mrs. James Spazzoni was going to do public speaking about the kitchen. How did you know?
I've just listened to her.
Just listen to what she
Yeah,
said.
but then how can you talk about that in public participation? That's confused me, sorry, has totally and utterly confused me. I didn't know what was coming from James Spazzoni concerning the kitchen. Now you've passed a comment on the kitchen, and I'm totally confused. Okay, so you've just heard it, but I didn't think you could do public participation like that. How many times have we stopped people from doing public participation? When
You've got a slot booked.
Can the clerk just clarify, please, what?
Booked a slot to talk about World War I. I didn't know that he would add that to that, but that's why he booked the slot over the concern of the mayor reading the names at the War Memorial and the Remembrance Sunday.
well, I appreciate that, and I understand there is a reason for that, but I'm just concerned that another item is being brought up in public participation, where usually it's quite looked upon that if it's not on the agenda you can't talk about it, and therefore, you know, we're selective now on who we allow to talk and who we don't allow to talk. I'm awfully sorry, I don't actually agree with that, and that conversation should have actually been stopped, because that was not part of...
Okay, but I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't see an issue with that. I didn't know what Mr. Harper was going to say.
Mr. Chair, as a council, can we thank everybody who attended the Remembrance Service, as this is the first full council meeting since the Remembrance Service. It was well turned out by our youth and our senior citizens, and I'd like to thank everybody, the Legion, everybody who actually did a good service there, and thank them for all the work they've done for getting it there.
Yeah,
So can we send a thanks from the council, please?
I mean, I'll endorse that, and I mean, I don't wish to make any further comments about what Mr. Harper said about the reading of the Roll of Honour I mean, he's already covered that off in an email and what he said tonight. And anything that I said tonight would further add probably more controversy to the event. So at the end of the day, it just needs to be given the dignity it deserves. We just need to talk about it no further. Okay, so I'll move on to the second page. Minutes of the previous meeting. Received and approved the minutes of the Town Council meeting of the 4th of November. Councillor Inconstance.
Yes, last page, 3201.
Is this matters arising?
Yeah, yes.
What number, sorry?
No, you're talking about minutes, I'm not reading them. There's an
All right,
error.
fine.
1021, exempt item, back page.
Yeah. Can't talk about this, well, we can.
Well, I can actually make sure it's recorded right, and it has to be recorded right because it's important that I have it absolutely correct. For the most part, we had a discussion because actually this was not in the paper. It was discussed with the public there. You stipulated the matter because it concerned a former employee as private and confidential. I'd like clarification from the clerk what is considered private and confidential. Who receives information that's private and confidential? I would like to know.
I don't want you questioning me like that at this particular time.
Well, I need clarification on that.
Can I just,
And also,
Councillor Inconstance, can I interject here? Anything private and confidential about a previous member of staff, previous employee, a current employee,
it's
should
yes.
not be discussed in public.
It should not be discussed in public.
Right.
What I'm trying to get clarified is the meaning of the term private and confidential.
I'm sure you do know.
I'm asking you what you classify as private and confidential.
Councillor
I'm
Inconstance,
not-
I'm sorry, I don't think that's an appropriate question.
I'm not
Because
actually asking you, Chair,
No,
sorry.
but I'm afraid I'm overruling the clerk, and I'm saying that
Okay,
I
I'll
don't think
leave that.
I don't think that's an appropriate question because I
I
think
will leave that. I don't need to have you attack verbally. Right, we'll go on to the last paragraph. She added, when you say she, I take it you mean yourself. She added she would email the calculations to Councillor O'Connor. I think there was quite some controversy over the time period on when that information would be given to me. I don't think the mention of an email, it was that I was asking for information and it was agreed that I would receive that information in the end of that week. I didn't receive that. So I would like that actually documented, what was actually agreed. You didn't add, I asked you for that information. There was discussion over when that information was going to be given to me.
yeah, so Councillor Country, what you're asking for is a bit more clarity around the last sentence.
Yes, please, yes.
Okay.
And I want to make it perfect.
will-
I want it actually word for word. It's important to me because I need that information.
Okay, well what I would suggest then is that you confer with the clerk and come up with the correct wording for that last sentence after the meeting.
That's fine.
Okay?
That's fine.
Councillor Holloway.
I've got a couple. First on the same item actually. There was 2 votes, I'll write that recorded, and neither were named votes. So while I don't particularly care, we can take the names off of the votes.
Councillor, sorry, can you,
Sorry?
what are you saying? This is on...
So on the resolution,
Yeah.
there were 2 votes. And this doesn't record the fact that we had a second illegal vote. And we did.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, all right.
So we got to,
Okay.
the motion was carried, and then we voted on it again, and it wasn't a main vote, so we shouldn't be saying before.
Okay, I'll put that in.
Thank you. I've got one more, I think. 1009 on page 318. Yeah, the resolution was for Council Rincon Trade to carry out a health and safety investigation, not just an investigation. So I think we need to
Okay.
determine the type of investigation. Yes,
Health and safety, isn't it? Certainly. Okay, that clarify. Everyone else happy?
So we just on the last one, the one that Councillor Rincon Craig made, we're going to add a date for when the calculations will be provided to Councillor Rincon.
Yeah, that will be in the wording that they come up with together.
We're going to have a specific date. We've got it
Yeah.
requested.
Oh,
That's
I
what we're
want
doing.
it totally accurate, that's what I
Okay,
said,
yeah.
yes.
Right. Do you have any matters arising?
we agreed those minutes. Like,
Oh, you're still not agreed? Okay,
well,
so what,
they accepted as a majority. No, sounds like a further change.
are there any further issues with these minutes then? So if those amendments are made, you're happy with the minutes?
Yes, then they're made. Yes, I
Yeah,
am.
when they're made, yeah.
But we're not giving you permission to sign off today.
Okay.
Mr Chair, while we're on the
Yes,
subject
Councillor
of,
West.
while we're on the subject of minutes, can I please have it sorted out by next month? Because last time we had minutes and things that were not approved, it went on and on and on and on, until in the end we turned around and was said, okay, we've forgotten what the issues were, so now just we'll sign them off, okay? I'm sorry, we can't allow that ever to happen again.
This will be resolved at the next meeting in the new year.
Right,
Okay?
okay?
Have we got any reports or any matters arising from those minutes? Councillor Leslie? No?
Mr Chair, I only have one, okay, in the children's
Councillor
play.
West?
In the children's play area, I've already put up my hands and turned around and said it was my fault. I was a chairman. I did not attend pre-chairman's briefings. I did not go back to the clerk after going up to there with other councillors to inspect the play area. Okay, so myself, I personally was responsible for that being out of commission, because before it closed, okay, reports had come into council. I'd also been told that the ROSPA report had come in, okay, and I hadn't taken the time and trouble to actually go into the office to read the ROSPA report myself.
Okay.
Okay, and I don't know if any other councillor did or did not, but that's not down to me to turn around and say. It's quite clearly, okay, that reports came in on different bits of kit over the time, and I didn't read the report.
Okay, so you're happy for that to be aligned to 1009, right, on the children's play?
Yeah.
Just on that point then,
Councillor
as a councillor, we should avoid single points of failure. So if one councillor's acting on his own or sitting on a report, it shouldn't just be one councillor. If they don't act on that, then it puts all of us at risk as councillors. So going forward, can we not have a single point of failure and have more than one individual involved?
Yes, there were.
It came to the Environmental Committee on a number of occasions. I was the chair of that, and also a number of councillors went up and actually inspected the children's play area. So we actually took the responsibility away from the clerk by councillors going up and doing a physical
I think
inspection.
there was 5 councillors, weren't there?
And none of us came back with a follow-up report to the clerk. So it was, and 5 councillors in total went up there.
Will you even Roscoe Chan?
But, can I interrupt?
Councillor Contrary.
But at that point, we didn't have the ROSPA report,
Right, well, we don't...
because it was the following meeting when I
Right, okay, well,
asked.
can I just make a point that I think at this particular moment in the agenda, which is matters arising, we don't want to get into a huge discussion about the play centre.
But you listened to Councillor
No,
West.
but I'm just saying that we're just simply going around in great big circles again about it. He just made a point.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to say about the point was when he said he had the roster report,
Okay.
he didn't actually have the roster
It's not a
report.
valid point.
Because
The point's gonna be
you
made.
didn't find the roster report until the following meeting when I asked you, and you went into the office and found it. Excuse me, you weren't here.
I wasn't around, was I, for 2 months? And when I first came back to the meeting, it became an issue. I went into the office and found it.
Did you have the report, David?
It was said, the assistant clerk said to me, we have the ROSPA report for anybody who wishes to come and read it.
Did you have the report?
It was brought in a bundle of paperwork for that environment
Okay,
committee.
but
And I took the
excuse
synopsis.
me, I'm going to bring it, look, I'm not
I
going to
took the
have
synopsis.
cross-questioning of councillors against other councillors. This is
Okay.
nonsense.
Okay,
I
I
will
took,
just move on to the next item, which is the Bedfordshire list.
Can I just...
Sorry, item 21, as soon as Mrs. Councillor Clapham has made a point.
It's just on the recreation down, 1015, matters arising. I did bring this up, I think, in the environmental, but to stop trespassing onto the farmer's field, with this idea about installing concrete posts and squeeze gaps. As a result, you're going to get the fence, the chain link fence, cut into, because that's already happened up there. So I'm just wondering, is it worth wasting money doing that? Because it's just going to cause vandals to cause other damage. That was,
I think the clerk would reply to that.
The concrete post has been installed.
oh, they have.
Yes, and the hole that you saw in the fence wasn't the town council's fence. It actually belongs to the school, and that's been there a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if we're getting problems with the fencing being cut or people getting through, our groundsman will give you a name of a plant that can be planted to cause impervious planting, so therefore it will stop people getting through because it is designed by nature to have barbs on it that stop people getting through. So, sorry?
What's that? Pyrocanthus.
That's the one. He's been speaking to you as well then.
Okay, we'll move on to, which was originally agenda item 21, but is now agenda item number 9.
Thank you.
And this is the World War I report from ex-councillor Duncan Wayne.
Thank you, Chair Committee, for allowing me to bring this report to you. I've titled it Arlesey Remembers You, Completed Almost. I don't know whether you remember, this very meeting last year, I proposed an idea to commemorate the First World War, which was to place individual crosses on the 87 graves of the men named in our memorial. And that was adopted. And as part of that idea, we want to leave a legacy for future generations. A small team was put together, and we started to plan the detail of how we were going to achieve this. Very early on, a lady called Jodie Chillery joined us, and the seeming simple idea of, I'll fill the project. And as we all know, she did a wonderful job. Arlesey Council donated £2,000 towards the project, so that meant the key elements are now in place for the project. We launched the project by joining the civic service, and prior to that the children of the Gothic community made the crosses for the project. Both of those activities were a great success in bringing the project to the forefront of people's minds. After that, we had a steady stream of volunteers heading off to various parts of the world: Turkey, Israel, France and Belgium, of course, near to home, Sheffield. On the Remembrance Sunday, the final 9 crosses were placed. Thanks to the British Legion for allowing us to do that. Apart from placing the crosses, what has the project achieved? Right, it's achieved some of the following. built a website with giving histories and pictures of the project, men and their histories. Undertaken a great deal of research on the men, the village and memorial, and all of which will appear on the website in due course. We've made a TV documentary, separately funded by a crowdfunder appeal, which reached its target in 4 days, which was absolutely staggering. We've gained national recognition. We appeared in the Daily Telegraph, and we're now associated with a national charity called RememberWorldWar1.org. Indeed, we went to their launch ceremony, and I'll talk about that in a minute. There was an unmarked grave in St Peter's, and we didn't know where it was. We've now located that. It's John Boskills. So, more about that later. We've educated people about these 87 men as far as we can. If you like, we've started to remember them. Children in particular have gained a lot out of participating in the project. The enthusiasm for their volunteering to place crosses at the 2 ceremonies, the way they joyfully took part in the making of the crosses, as you saw in the film, is all fascinating. We provided an incentive for an individual to build a private sound studio, which is something he'd been planning for many a year apparently, and then we made use of it, which was very complimentary to his idea. We reunited friends and neighbours and relatives. There's quite a few stories of people coming together because of our activity. We've inspired a local artist, David Borrington, to produce 87 drawings. Each one will be dedicated to one of the men on the memorial. Proceeds from their sale will go to a range of appropriate charities, which we've yet to decide. We've given local people some valuable work experience in media, web and web development and content management, which is one very useful aim for people. And finally, we've created a legacy of knowledge and memories which will endure for many years, I feel. Just going back to one of the points, on Thursday the 20th of November, we actually attended the launch event for the Remember World War I. Amongst the speakers, like Lord, who was it? Lord of Wimbledon, Lord Arnhem of Wimbledon. Jodie made a speech about the project on the lines more or less I'm saying now. And at the same time, there was a short film she produced. Both were very well received by the gathering as a very worthy project and very successful, and fully in line with their objectives for their Remembrance project. On the 22nd of November, we had the 2 premieres here in the church, in the village hall, I should say. Each was attended by about 200 people. The programme certainly impressed most of them, and a lot of very favourable comments were heard. The programme itself is now being broadcast on the community channels about 5 or 6 times during December. And if you really keen, one date I can remember is 8:30 on the 26th of December in the morning. So you want to get to Billy that day? During the premiere, we took a collection and we raised £1,000, at least £1,000, £500 of which came from the Bedfordshire Regiment's Memorial Appeal when they heard about the purpose of the collection, which is to place a headstone on the grave in St Peter's. Subsequent to that, I've had a very quick chat with Chris Gravitt. We've had further donations to about £1,400 now. We think the cost is going to be roughly £1,600–1,700, but we've yet to finalise that. We hope to achieve that fairly shortly. We will be making a DVD of the film with the ending as you see it here, with the children reading some of the names, whereas on the community channel that bit's been left off, but we'll have a DVD available shortly. going back to my title, I said completed, almost. So what's the almost? Well, a typical project like this doesn't have a nice neat ending, as you can imagine. We've got a number of ongoing activities. The DVD I've mentioned, David Borrington I've mentioned, the DVD, I want to repeat myself, the headstone, we want to get that sorted fairly quickly. We have a couple of other ideas which is a bit early to make public, but once we've firmed up our ideas up and make those public. Finally, Arlesey Remembers will be doing yet more good things next year as those ideas conclude and progress. Finally, I'd just like to say this is a great achievement by the village, something all of us can take great pride in. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, before Mr. Wang goes, okay, can you do me a favour, if there's a shortfall in the headstone, can you put a financial assistance form into the town council?
Yes,
Please, I would remain myself, I'm sure if it comes to town council, council could look at it open, and I hope they would support you in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Councillor.
Okay. Thank you, Dominic.
Sorry, can I just point out, we've received a donation from a business that I didn't even know existed in the village today, and we're going to have enough to do everything for the headstone.
Excellent news.
okay, thank
So
you.
we won't need that.
Very good.
I'm sorry, thank you.
And nothing to be sorry about there.
Well done.
Okay, well done. Thank you very much. Excellent. Okay, so the numbering's slightly changed now. So 10 is Bedfordshire Police. Obviously, there's nobody here, but we've got the fourth.
In the draw. Mr. Chair, has our ward members been given a copy now? Because I know we did ask the numbers to be increased to cover the ward members. Have you been given a copy of the crime report for Arlesey?
No.
Can that- Can we increase them so all ward members get a copy?
I'll send you a summary of things.
Okay, we can get on that.
No, but I'll send you a summary of where we are.
Okay, so moving on then to the reports from the Central Bedfordshire Council representatives,
I think
and with the sole
Yep.
representative.
I'd like to send a project to me and Richard, the one long-standing engagement, nothing, it's long-standing engagement and they just couldn't get out of it, I'm afraid. First of all, I believe you've been notified about the council tax rate. Have you had that? Yeah?